when we start writing down what we do, we cannot help as human beings but to reflect. And you will find that when you start doing this, all of a sudden you're less busy because you are finally challenging and questioning the things that you've been wasting your time on without realizing it.
Layla is the founder of ProcessDriven and also a creator herself. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to build systems and stop being the bottleneck inside of your business. And we're also going to get a sneak peek into her business as a creator as well. So welcome, Layla, to the stage today.
Thanks for having me, Darrell. It's good to catch
How
up.
are you?
Good. A little bit
Good.
less tired than you must be after these few days, man. This is quite the production.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to talk to you. We've had so many amazing conversations. If I know anything to be true, some of the themes that have gone this entire event are going to come up here today too. So
Yeah.
can't wait to dive in. But for people who don't know you the way that I know you, what do we need to know about Layla?
Well, I think if I were to just summarize it all in, it's that I 7 years ago swore that I would never become a business owner because I grew up around small business, grew up around the kind of crazy stuff that we're all doing now on the internet. And I told myself I would never do it because I thought small business ownership was the trap to burnout, to never getting paid enough, to never getting enough time off. And somehow the universe just, when you make plans, the universe laughs at you. And 7 years later, now here I am. I started off as a virtual assistant. And now what Process Driven does is essentially crack the code as to how you can run a small business or a small team or a small creator led business without burning out and actually, enjoying your life.
Okay, that feels like the jumping off point for what we need to talk about because
Okay.
burnout is rampant in the creator world. Burnout
Yes,
is rampant in the small business world.
for sure.
And what are some of the biggest blockages that you see in your work of people who are like what are kind of like the business owner's suicide things, the business owner like potholes that people are driving into on a consistent basis that are causing overwhelm and burnout and people like not having the longevity inside of their business. What are some of the common things that you're seeing?
Yeah, and at first, if anyone here is feeling brave, if you could write in the chat if you've ever experienced burnout, please do, because I think one of the biggest obstacles I see is that we don't talk about it. It's like this outcome that we all talk about. Oh, well, a few years ago when I was burnt out and then I crawled my way out of it. We always talk about burnout as something in the distant past, whereas for many of us, it's in the not so distant future. And I think the first pothole that I wish we could fill is thank you, Anna, Krista, all the folks in the chat, the first thing I just want to acknowledge is that all of us are running up against it on the monthly. Like, this is something that is very easy to fall into. And then the second thing is realizing that it is something that can be prevented. Because we focus so much on, the rising phoenix stories of we burnt out and then I built something great. I almost think that in small business ownership, but even more so in the creator landscape, it's kind of viewed as a mark of pride. Like, I can't have my epic rise until I have the tragedy of burning out. But what I wish we would view it as is almost like a pro athlete. If you have a severe knee injury, that could end your career. It's not a mark of pride to have a severe injury. I think for knowledge workers and creators, our creativity is our greatest asset. Why would we want to fully burn that out in order to become great? We don't need to do that.
Mm. Yeah, Nikki said something earlier today that is going to stick with me for a long time. It's like we
Uh-oh.
often think, or we often forget that the recovery from a burnout is much harder and longer than the
Mhm.
prevention of it.
Yeah.
And so what I love about your work is you talk about process and systems in a way that creates scalable,
Mhm.
sustainable systems for us to exist
Mhm.
as entrepreneurs. So, kind of give me the baseline. Like, if you had to explain process driven and the work that you do in three
Mhm.
to 5 minutes, give me the
Okay.
baseline of like where we're beginning to focus or how we can build some of the systems. So I think we're all bought
Mhm.
into not rubbing up against it. We're all bought in and wanting a different result. We've had lots of like mindset talks here, but I want to get super
Mhm.
practical. Like
Yeah.
at process driven, like how are you thinking about this? What are the systems that you're building here?
Yeah, our main goal is to build something that can exist outside ourselves because one of the contributing factors of burnout is the fact that you're keeping so much in your head. And so when we are trying to systemize or build processes for a business, what we're trying to do is get the stuff that are keeping you up at night and put it somewhere else. Practically speaking, I kind of summarize this as what do you need to do? Who needs to do it? And when does it happen? And when you get those down, you could put that in something like a task management system. Yeah.
Say that again for those in the back. Those 3 things again.
What do you need to do? When do you need to do it? And who is responsible?
Mhm.
That is the starting point. And nicknames you can find there on the interwebs for the young kids is to search task management. I mean, that is the first piece. And I'm not talking about fancy systems or AI integrations. Literally, just a task list can make a remarkable difference for creators out there of just having a notebook where you're using it effectively for these three pieces.
So good. Like my notebook that now just has these 3 things, written in it. Uh, so as, this is gonna be a little bit of a Darrell therapy session, or
Oh,
a Darrell
okay.
coaching session because I think it's helpful when we get really practical here. So
Yeah,
the 3 principles, let's dive into each one of these really quickly.
sure.
So, like, define to me, like, what needs to be done. How is
Mhm.
that done correctly versus incorrectly? And what's the best way of thinking about defining what needs to be done?
Oh my gosh, I have and could go into hours of each of these, so, like, let's jam. On the what side of things, it's really figuring out the areas of responsibility. I think a lot of people overthink this, and if we were in a big corporation, what do we need to do would be shown on some kind of organizational chart. We'd have, like, level 1 support rep and assistant. As small teams, there might be just one of us, and we wear all of the hats. So, figuring out what you need to do for me comes down to defining the areas of responsibility. So, for example, in your house, who is in charge of the trash, right? Everyone knows the answer to that. Writing that kind of stuff down is where we start with our businesses. Who's in charge of the trash? Who's in charge of the dishes? Who's in charge of the laundry? You have those things in your business as well. But for most of us, we never write them down. And I'm not just talking solopreneurs or creators. No, no, no. I'm talking, 8-figure large enterprises who have never recorded this information.
That's good. And do I do this for, like, literally everything that needs to get done? So it's like you're using the home metaphor, I think it's a good one. It's like trash and cooking dinner and doing laundry and sweeping the floor and, like, that feels like it could be an infinite number of things that I could be writing out, and as a solopreneur, it's like, "Alright, well, since I'm
Mhm.
doing all of it anyways, do I really need to define this, Layla?
Yeah.
So why would I need to do this if, like, I'm the only one doing it anyways?"
So the argument I always make is that you can't systemize when you don't know what you're systemizing. It's like I can't have a clean house if I don't know how many rooms I have in the house. What we have found, though, after working with over 5,000 small teams and solopreneurs through this, is that there are really just 7 rooms in the house. And within those, there's about 21 categories of processes. If we want to get super nerdy and technical, you might think it's an endless list of things you do, but what we have found is that the average is closer to 100 categories of things that any person's doing, whether you're a team of 30 or a team of 3, there's about 100 categories. And I think a lot of solopreneurs are like, I just create. Not true. You are doing hundreds of things, so no wonder you are overwhelmed.
That's good. What are the 7 categories? I'm putting you on the
Oh
spot a little bit
gosh.
here, but I know people are gonna ask, can you remember them? What are the 7 categories?
If
We
I
don't need
was
to
more
go through
prepared, I would
21 of
have
these.
them. Okay. I can give you some examples of them because now I'm
Okay,
like,
please
am I
do.
going to forget each of them? But they kind of follow what would be a traditional organizational chart. So things like product, things like customer, support, financial. These are the broad categories of your business functions that we can then treat as a fill in the blank. When we have clients go through this, we literally just give them the prompt and it's like fill in the blank. Here are the buckets. And it's so much easier than staring at a blank page and trying to just think of, wait, what all do I do?
That's so good. Okay. And I'm sure that we can find a YouTube video or something of you
Yes.
talking about different areas. Okay. So then that's the what needs to be done,
Mhm.
and then the when is next. So talk to me about the when.
When and who kinda go together, so I'm gonna do a two-parter, and then there's some extra we can dig into, but when and who is when we start getting into the actual action. So it's one thing to say, "All right, my spouse is in charge of taking out the trash." But I don't know if anyone here has kids, I don't, but I have nieces and nephews, and when you make the nieces and nephews in charge of, say, doing the dishes or taking out the trash, you say little Susie's in charge, and then Susie needs a little bit of reminding. Just saying she's in charge is not enough for the action to get done. Business is the same way. We can say Susie is in charge of all of our testimonial collection. But unless we have actions to remind Susie to do this, it just becomes one more thing, floating around our heads. So, who and when are when we create tasks. And my obsession for small businesses, particularly, is the power of routine and repeating tasks. So, as creators, it's pretty easy that we sit down and we say, all right, I'm going to create all of my community posts for the month. That is a task. That is a lot different than just saying, all right, you're in charge of posting in the community. It's very vague. And so, who and when is defining the activities that you need to do to actually get your business to do what it needs to. And this has huge unlocks for automation, for delegation as we grow, for just streamlining. We can go on and on into that.
That's good. What, when, who, uh, and that can be done on piece of paper. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
done in a fancy system.
Nope.
I've also seen a trap that people fall into all the time. It's like, oh, I'm gonna like sign up for this tool or this software or
Yeah.
this thing, and that's gonna like magically all of a sudden help me become more organized or create a system here. But what we're really thinking about here is like the core concept of what a system really is. It's the what,
Yeah.
the when, and the who.
Mhm. And many people, you already do it for your household, whether you realize it or not. If you've ever created a chore chart or divided up who's doing the dishes, you've already been building systems. And yet, when it comes to especially creative businesses, we don't take that same level of care, which is silly because as creators, again, our creativity, our energy, our willpower is our main value add. Like the ability to show up for YouTube, you need a lot of free time for that. And if we're wasting all of our energy on trying to remember, wait, did I take the trash out? Did I send that invoice? Did I read that book that was recommended in the Mighty Summit? Like when we start wasting our energy in all these unintentional ways, we lose the fundamental business.
Okay, so I can hear a couple of things coming up here. One of the things is, but Layla, I'm a visionary and I just need
Yeah.
somebody else to build a system for me.
Mhm.
I'm the idea person. I'm the visionary. I need somebody else. If I could just have an integrator to come in and help me build my systems for me. I'm just waiting around for that I'm like 20 years into my career and I'm still waiting
Mhm.
around for that magical integrator, to come save me. Talk to me about that where it's like, but time
Yeah.
out. Like, this is not my
Yeah.
person. It's really great for those of you who have that personality type, but what about for the rest of
Right.
us who have a different
Right.
personality type? What is your thoughts about that?
I just yesterday, I kid you not, I recorded a 10-minute rant about this that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a cease and desist over. So check YouTube for that video,
Before
f
it goes away.
before it disappears. But to get right to it, I think where we need to shift is our understanding of what this process stuff is. I think a lot of people treat it almost like an event coordinator, right? Okay, the event coordinator is going to get all the ducks in a row and basically be the cleanup crew for our grand vision of, say, a wedding we're planning. That's really not what process is at this level. That's like the little nitty gritty stuff. What we're talking about here of what you do, who does it, and when do you do it, that is better viewed as internal branding. It's the vision for how things happen inside. And what I love about creatives, and I kind of view myself in that category as well, is we love branding, right? We want to make sure we're putting the right vibe out to the world, that we're phrasing things the right way, that we look the right way and have the right fonts and colors. That is all just the facade. And I feel like it's an old Western town where you've got that beautiful facade and then you walk in the doors of the business. What's inside? If we were in a physical storefront, visionaries would be obsessed with what happens inside the hotel lobby as well. Yet, because this is knowledge work and it's invisible, we think, oh, no, no, that's details. I'm not talking about dusting here. I'm talking about what is the furniture inside your business? How do you make things happen? This internal branding is honestly more impactful to your day to day and your customers' day to day than anything that you have on the outside of the business.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that one away. It's like for the vision of how things happen.
Yeah,
And the metaphor of like the inside and the outside of the hotel is also really good here. It's like we're just kind of breaking down some of these mental barriers here.
right.
Okay, the next thing is uh like like where do I get started? So it's like the what here
Mhm,
is like the what, when, and
mhm.
who, but like
Yeah,
really practically. Okay, Layla, I'm
mhm,
bought in. You got
yeah.
me. I'm convicted. I need to be thinking
Mhm,
about the inside of the hotel just as much as the outside. Okay,
mhm.
now where do I start? I probably got a mess. I probably got an
Yeah,
inbox with like 7,000 people in it. I probably got a bunch of stuff that was due or supposed to get done last week. I'm probably waking up at 3 AM stressed out about what's
Yeah.
going on. Like, where do I
Mhm.
start? Where do I begin thinking about all of this?
The whole journey from hot mess to, like, Marie Kondo approved is like a 10-hour transformation. So I won't go into all of that here. I've got stuff on that elsewhere. But the biggest thing that I've seen make a difference that can be done as soon as you finish listening to this summit in about 20 minutes is separating ideas from tasks. This is the number one thing because it addresses the what, the who, and the when portion of the puzzle. And that's our starting point. What I mean by that is when you think of something you want to do, think, is this something I'm actually committing to do? Is this something we actually need to take action on? For most of us, the answer to every shiny object, to every book recommendation we hear, to every YouTube channel people talk about is, it'd be cool, but I don't need to do it this week. And so when you have those ideas of actions that are not required, put them in one spot called an idea spot or a backlog. Everything else that truly needs to be done in a timely manner, and is truly important to you, put in another spot. So we're separating now things that actually matter from everything else. This is
Mm.
almost like picturing that hotel lobby filled with empty boxes and furniture and dust and all this junk. The best thing we can do is just to empty the room, and separating out these actions for ourselves or our team is bar none the biggest transformation we can do in about 20 minutes to start making this better.
Okay. I wanna really double tap on this 10-hour transformation a little bit because
Yeah,
that feels like
it's
I
insane.
don't believe you. It feels like it's gonna take me
I don't
10
either.
years, not 10 hours.
Yep.
What are you talking
Mhm.
about? So, kind of just from a high level, walk me through, like, why 10 hours? What have you learned about that? What's happening in that period of time?
I've been studying the same question for 7 years, and we've been measuring and remeasuring and teaching and reteaching, and this is the time that is taking people on average to get through the journey. Because really, when it comes to kind of being productive as a team, it's just kind of agreeing to operate in a certain way. There's some decisions we need to make. There's a little bit of infrastructure we might need, like ideas and tasks being separate. But the biggest mess and the chaos causer in our business is not the things we're doing. It's the fact that we're trying to do too much and we're storing it all in our head. So, in our main program, how we work with folks, Foundations, we walk people step by step through how to set all of this stuff up. And we've now timed it. And so that's why I can say it's insane to me. It's taken 7 years and 10 hours to go through and really transform this. And we've seen it work time and time again across industries for creatives, non creators. And most people are not process people that do this. This is just folks who are willing to clean up the hotel lobby, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's so good. Um, man, there's so much that I wanna keep pulling down here on, a little bit, but, again, I think this is so key for so many of well, for myself and for so many of my friends who exist in this world, which is like, it's not that we don't know what to do. It's not that we have a
Mhm,
lack of inspiration or
mhm.
ideas. It's really like we've become our own bottlenecks in so many different
Right.
ways. So talk to me about the idea of bottleneck. I know it's one that
Mhm.
comes up in your work a little bit. But again, like I think it's like I think I've known I've been the bottleneck for like 5 years, but like nothing is actually changing there.
Hey,
And
that's
so
the
like
first step.
what's oh, yeah, I'm on the first step for a long time, Layla, and I think a lot of people in this room probably are too. What's the second step? So first step is kind of
Yeah.
understanding it here, like,
Mhm.
again, like that separating ideas and,
Yeah.
ideas from tasks, but kind of
Yeah.
walk me further down the road a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, let's really unpack why does someone become the bottleneck? Most often, it's because this differentiation between what could be cool and what do we really have to do, for most of us, it's stored here. And so that's number one reason we become the bottleneck is because what we think is important is never communicated. The second step, once we start acknowledging, oh, shoot, I really don't want to be the person having to tell everything, is to basically recreate the stuff that's happening in our head in an external, transparent system. So that means idea lists. That means writing down the list of rooms in our house, AKA what we do, writing it down, taking those what's and assigning them to other people. This is like delegation 101 in some ways, but by taking all of the things that are happening in our head and just recreating them in a visible way, not only can we turn off our brain at 5 p.m. because we're not sitting there thinking, oh shit, I could forget about that client work. No, we get it out of our head. And then all of a sudden, team members can see what we are thinking. Like, it's a fundamental shift from the way we're used to operating with emails and everything being offline in notebooks, fundamentally shifting our business to be a shared brain, a team productivity system rather than an individual productivity system will change the way that the business works. And that's really step two.
Hmm. It's so good, Layla. I think that I'm seeing this pop up in the chat, but I think there's a lot of conviction in the room right here. It's like, oop, I know I'm the problem. I know I'm the bottleneck. Getting this out of my head is a key deal. Um,
Mhm.
okay, I want to transition a little bit and talk about you as a creator a bit here
Oh, okay.
because we
Mhm.
can get a little meta here, which is kind of fun. And I think this kind of building systems for ourselves and process are key. But you
Yeah.
also are a YouTuber, and
Yeah,
you're about
I
to cross
guess.
100,000 subscribers on YouTube, if
Uh-huh.
you haven't already. And
120.
120, you did it. Man, my
Yeah.
dad is old. Uh, and and 120 and this has been a journey for you too as a
Yeah.
creator. So talk to me about your creator journey. So
Mhm.
process driven Layla, but now also creator Layla. Tell me the creator journey a bit because it's a wild story too.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I started this out just working with clients one-on-one. I started out as a virtual assistant. I don't know if we have any other virtual assistants in the house or former ones. I just started off this business just to get some experience. And along the way, when I was working with clients on tech setups, they would ask me questions about, oh, well, how do I do XYZ? Or they'd ask questions like we're talking about here of like, man, how do I start getting this stuff out of my head? And I would answer them in these long winded emails. And, I'm systems wired. The idea of retyping and resaying the same thing is not my favorite thing in the world. And so I decided rather than answering Suzette's question about this, I would record a video for her, anonymous, answering the question my client just asked me. And because Wistia and Vimeo cost money to put videos on, where do you think I put them? I just put them on YouTube. And I literally had no plan. I had no strategy. I was just answering client questions and publishing them on YouTube in case it helped anyone else. And well, leave it to say, it helped other people and it very quickly started to grow. We're now at 120 some thousand subscribers, which is insane to me for a channel about business process. And it really wasn't until last year that I kind of came to terms with, oh yeah, I guess I am a creator now. Like you made that introduction so easily, Darrell. But I was sitting here like, oh yeah, I guess I count now. It was a very accidental journey.
Yeah, that's so interesting. What have you learned? Years into creating content on YouTube, years of growing a newsletter
Mhm.
and email list,
Yeah.
years of like having coaching and courses and like what
Mhm.
have you learned? What does Layla today know that Layla 5 years ago, 7 years ago didn't know?
That it's still possible to grow an audience without having major connections and tech skills. I literally filmed everything on a flip phone with no editing. Like, guys, you can still find those videos. Please don't, but you can. It's very as long as you're creating content that truly helps people. And I've said this to people earlier on in their YouTube journey, even now. My first videos were answering a client question. That remained the strategy for over 3 years. And honestly, still today, the videos that I create are based on people from my newsletter or from our membership asking a question, and I record the YouTube video. And I think there's so much obsession with optimizing and SEO and this, that, and the other, which I'm sure all works. There is magic to that. But I think the theme of today for the sessions I've listened to is around making sure you're serving somebody. And especially if you have a community, you know your people so well. If you can publish the answer to the questions they ask you, I found that to be more effective than any attempt at strategic content creation. Um,
Yeah. It is so like again, I'm feeling like a broken record at this point, but I'm so happy that we are because this is exactly it. It's like you can learn all of the tricks,
mhm,
all of the tactics, all of the
mhm.
hacks,
Yep.
but the only real thing that works that is sustainable and defensible over a long period of time is exactly this. Is creating
Mhm,
real content in an authentic way that people
mhm.
like actually helps people, actually serves people, has people first in mind.
And, I wanna double click on that piece really quickly because I think that's one of the beautiful things about kind of this combination of being a content creator and talking about process, which I didn't quite realize until this conversation. But there's this phrase in content creation of document, don't create, right? Like many of us have probably heard of that. You can just drop a yes in the chat. Um, but that phrase is about creating content that captures the experience. Well, what do we think process documentation is? It's literally documenting what is happening in our business in the same way. It's the same skill. And just like creating content is creating this body of work that if we wanted to, we could then use AI to make more powerful over time. If we start documenting what happens in our business, I mean, like, I could nerd out here for a second, but imagine what that data would do when infused with AI rather than just having it all memorized. At least as of now, thank God, we cannot integrate AI into our brains. So, this is the second best thing on either side of getting your work and your clients' work out there, which is creating.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, I know this is an objection that's gonna come up for people. It's like,
Mm,
okay, getting it out of my brain, it makes a lot of sense. Uh, I'm the only one, Layla. I'm the only one in my business.
yeah.
Why am I getting it out of my brain if I'm the
Mhm.
only one? Like, isn't
Yeah.
it better? Just like it's first of all, like I've got to slow down to do this. Like I've
Yeah.
got so much to
Mhm.
do. Where am I possibly going to
Mhm.
create space to even be
Mhm.
thinking about the what, the when, and the who? And
Yeah.
why does it even matter if I'm the only freaking one here? So, A, like I'm already busy. I already can't do it all. And now you're telling me that I've
Uh-huh.
got to like my process and figure it all out. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts for those other
Oh.
people? Not me, for sure, not me,
Oh,
but the other
yeah.
people.
Of course, of course. Yeah, completely cannot relate to this feeling at all. uh, and I think this is the problem with process stuff is a lot of the process content you see is from people with like a whole executive team and it's just a little out of touch. For me, I work with small teams. And so this comes up all the time. The first thing I would say is unless you are super consistent, which most humans were not the most consistent, you already have at least 2 people on your team. You've got you Monday morning and you Friday afternoon. And
Mm.
I don't know if it's just me, but those 2 Laylas behave very differently and they
They
remember
don't really
things.
like each other either, I don't think.
Oh, no, the Friday one's always got some kind of attitude. The Monday one had the best of intentions. No matter what, you're dealing with 2 people here, sometimes more depending on the days of the week or the days of the month. And so either way, you have this same thing where your brain power is limited. Let's make your future use life easier by writing down things. This is not, we're not talking about SOPs or the how and the where of it. Literally just remembering, oh, by the way, you have to send that invoice on Friday. That seems important. But Friday Layla, she's not known for remembering that kind of stuff. So that's where we're gonna
Friday
start.
Leila's like out of here. She wanted to go hiking or something, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, she's in the mountains, she's at the gym. Friday Layla, she's hard to pin down. Um, the second thing I will say is that what we're building here is to prepare for what's in the future. So not just Friday Layla or Layla on vacation. When we can start seeing what we do, it's almost like journaling. So we've talked about internal branding. I'm gonna throw another metaphor at folks if you're still with me on this. When we start writing down what we do, we cannot help as human beings but to think about what we're writing down. I have worked with thousands of clients through the process of documenting what they do, and almost everyone will react with some kind of, oh my God, oh yeah, I do that. Oh, huh. And I do that every Friday. Wait, why do I do that every Friday? When we start recording, we as humans can reflect. And you will find that when you start doing this, all of a sudden you're less busy because you are finally challenging and questioning the things that you've been wasting your time on without realizing it. Because when we just focus on what's in our mental to do list, it looks very short. But in reality, when we start writing down what we do, oh my gosh, you will be shocked with how hard you're working on things that don't actually matter.
Yeah, I think it's like there's a cognitive bias to it. It's like,
Yes.
somebody I work with has a yellow Jeep, and now I'm seeing
Mhm.
yellow Jeeps everywhere, and I'm like, "I don't think there's that many yellow Jeeps, and I don't think they all of a sudden came out of nowhere."
I
But
mean,
it's like now I'm thinking about yellow Jeeps, and so it's like I'm
mhm.
looking for it. I'm looking for them or just even subconsciously. And
Yeah.
I think the same has to be true when we're writing things down, right? Which is I keep it in my mind, the brain's moving 10,000
Mhm.
times the speed of just sitting
Mhm.
down and writing it down. When I'm writing it down, I start having a cognitive bias to maybe start solving some of the problems that I have or to start
Yep.
thinking about it. And
Mhm.
this is a breakthrough for me, but I would love your thoughts on it, is
Yeah.
this is why slowing down is actually super important. It's like
Huge.
slowing down enough to like write it down because cognitively I'm going to be biased towards action or biased
Mhm.
towards thinking about it or biased towards solving a problem or seeing a
Mhm.
connection that I didn't see before. And I think that's a super interesting thought. What are your thoughts on that? Am I onto something here?
I think you're onto something because thanks to AI and technology and platforms like Mighty, like small teams, we're able to build huge businesses with huge impact without growing beyond just ourselves, maybe an assistant. We don't need the giant headcount. But the problem is, human brains are not meant to handle 500 customers at once or to keep track of 2,000 tasks at once. We are in a miraculous time where we are extending what humans are capable of. But if we just rely on our memory to keep track of all of this, something's going to give. And usually it's the person to loop full circle back to burnout. Usually, when we're trying to store more than what a human really can, we start feeling it physically or mentally. And yeah, it's absolutely like what you're describing here, where we need to kind of give ourselves a little support. But once we do, the potential is crazy.
Yeah, it's so good. Um, I, I don't even know where to go next because this is all so huge for people in this space. What I'm like, what I feel myself being really drawn into, Layla, is like getting into the practical of it again. I know that we've hit on it a
Sure.
couple times
Yeah.
here, but like I want to get as practical as possible for people because
Mhm.
again, I think like exactly what you're saying is making so much sense. There's so much like I just find myself nodding my head over and over, and people are doing the same exact thing here as well, which is like, yep, that's me. There's so much
Mhm.
in my head. I can't get it all out. I'm
Mhm.
feeling overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Uh uh like what are like 2 to 3 practices that I begin now to just begin like it's almost like
Mhm.
creating a new operating system for my life here.
It is.
Like what are some of the systems that I need to start doing on a daily or weekly or monthly basis here?
To get started, I would begin by that separation. When you hear something cool at this event, I hope you've heard something cool in this conversation because I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's a great point." When you have something cool that comes up, I want you to always be filtering into 2 spots. Could be cool to do or tasks I'm definitely taking action on. That's step 1. The
Yep.
second thing, if you're ready to keep going with this, would be to start logging the things that you actually need to do. So not waiting for inspiration to strike, but start recording today or tomorrow. Hey, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to spend 30 minutes answering emails. Create that as a task and have it repeat. Then do that for every single thing you do. You will find for the average small team, once again, 80% of what you do is repeating and predictable. How
Yep.
amazing would it be if you could look a month in advance and know exactly what you have to do the Tuesday you plan to be on vacation and reschedule it?
Yeah.
That would be the second step.
Am I doing this every single day? So I'm writing down what I do or I need to do every single day. Like, is this a daily practice or do I keep the list ongoing? Am I
Mhm.
like, first 15 minutes at my desk, I'm like, all right, what do I have to do today? And
Mm,
here's another breakdown that I'd love for for the
yeah.
not smart people in the room, of which I fall into. It's like, hey, guess what? I wrote everything down at 9 o'clock, but now it's
Mhm.
11 o'clock and I'm not
Mhm.
even paying attention to that anymore.
Yep.
So talk me through like how frequently am I writing this list? Am I updating it? And then how am I
Mhm.
actually implementing those to-dos inside of my day?
Yeah. For now, just getting started, if anyone here can relate to these feelings, which again, I cannot relate at all.
Yeah.
Focus on what you were acting on. So, not thinking about there is no armchair analysis happening here. This is not a planning session because for many of us, planning becomes procrastinating very easy because it just becomes completely out of date. So, all it is more like a time audit where as you're doing something, record it. 80% of what you do statistically repeats. And so, in that case, note that you're going to do this again the next day. For many of us, we're going to be meeting with our team every Monday. Great, write it down. For many of us, we'll be checking our DMs every day. Great, write it down. So, in that way, you're writing down what you do, but over time, because 80% of your activity is going to be repetitive across the board, only 20% is going to be new information. So you might be writing down 2 to 3 tasks a day, is what that works out to, that aren't already showing up. So
Mm.
this starts to snowball in a level of predictability where you can realize, oh, I actually already have 5 hours of things I need to do on the first Monday of a month. I need to send invoices. I need to post on social media. I need to engage with my community members in co working. Once we recognize that we've got a baseline, we now know how much time we have for new and shiny things. And if we're not excited about having just 2 hours a day left, guess what? We can start removing those routines. So this becomes an ongoing practice of journaling and reflection, but overall, it should take about 10 to 15 minutes extra to write down the title of what you're working on. This is not a huge time commitment.
Yeah. Uh, this comment that just came in is really interesting. Like
Mm,
looking at that list is going to make me feel tired. It's going to make me feel
mhm.
demotivated. Uh,
Yeah.
or it's like, if I were to do this exercise now and write down everything I have to do, it's like it would take me 17 days to do it all.
Mhm.
How do we begin like knowing where to begin when the mountain feels so big? Or where do
Yeah.
we begin if uh the reason I'm avoiding it is 'cause I don't want to do it in the first place. Which is why I'm like putting my head in the sand or looking the other way, or that's why I
Mhm.
haven't built a system around it because I just don't want to do it. Like talk to me about
Yeah.
that kind of those mindset things that come up here.
Yeah. What I like to paint the picture of for people is kind of a common conversation I have with clients where there's this shame cycle we get into, and maybe not all of us can relate. But if you've ever had those days where you're like, man, I've got 2 things to work on. Awesome. I'm going to knock it out. And you sit down and you start working. And then 5 o'clock rolls around and you didn't finish those 2 things. And you look at yourself in the mirror or you talk to your spouse after and you're like, duh, why did I not get this done? I only had 2 things I needed to do today. And I ended up working on this and that. And God, what's wrong with me that I'm not able to get this done? Like, if you've ever had that feeling, that shame cycle, I want you to try to reimagine that same situation where you were able to sit at the end of the day at 5 p.m. and say, huh, I had 2 things on my plate today, but I actually ended up working on 27 things that weren't those 2 things. Wow, how did I get 27 things done? Were these 2 not really that important? Were these ones just really loud and annoying and maybe I should have ignored them? We all of a sudden can shift from this self blame shame spiral to this sense of understanding and acknowledgement and almost celebration of reality. Because if we don't write it down, all that is left is either our memory, which to your point, recency bias, we will just think about what happened most recently, or we're left with what we did write down, which is usually this very rose colored plan that leaves us feeling like crap if we can't get it all done. And I feel like there's a lot of self understanding and empathy, not just for ourselves, but for other people we might work with, an assistant, a contractor, joint venture partners, whatever. When we start realizing, oh, well, I couldn't do all of this stuff because this is standing in my way. If I don't like that, look, I now know how to change it. Or I know, hey, here's exactly what I can delegate because I now know answering emails takes me 3 hours a week. Maybe it's time I hire a community manager. I mean, it just gives us power of information and writing down a one sentence thing of the task you are working on. When we think about doing about one task every 30 minutes of our workday, that's not a lot of extra time for that level of understanding and empathy.
Mm, it's good.
Cheaper
Okay,
than
what about
therapy.
what about the stuff I just don't want to do? And that's why I'm not doing it. So like, hey,
Mhm,
I hate this thing. So like,
mhm.
hey, I've got two really important things to do. I've written it down.
Yeah.
I maybe even created like the recurring meeting on my calendar to do it.
Mhm.
But like
Yep.
Tuesday at 10 o'clock is when I do it. And at Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I always find myself doing something else instead. Like,
Mhm.
do we just have to force ourselves? Do we have to like what do we do? How are you thinking about that as part of the problem where the system is breaking down? It's like, Layla, I just don't want to do it. So I find it
Mhm.
different reasons. And that then has cascading effects of other stuff not getting done or other people not getting what they need, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is one of the reasons why I've suggested here to start tracking tasks rather than calendar events. Just a little detail for anyone particularly nerdy. With a calendar event, if you ignore it, is there any record that you ignored it? No. The only one that knows is your own little shame monster who's like, gosh, Darrell, why didn't you do that step? And so, first thing, put them in a task tool because you'll see it be overdue or ignored or something like that. It'll just sit open in the spreadsheet. And then, how do we go about fixing this? I tend to believe that the people I work with, maybe because we're creators and we're smart human beings, if you're not doing it, there's a good reason. It's either because you don't think it's worth your time, that it doesn't actually have to get done, or you're not the right person to be doing it. And you know what's wonderful about having what you need to do, when it needs to happen, and an assignee field? Well, all of a sudden, you just change the assignee field. You either have an AI do it, you have a Zap do it, you have another human do it, or God forbid you click the delete button and it's like it never happened. That is my go-to approach for those.
Our mutual friend Tim, just
Uh-huh.
decided, like, "I'm not doing email anymore." So, like, I'm tired of, like, having all these people be mad at me that I don't email, and there's, like,
Mhm.
a 3 or 4-year period of time where it's like, the autoresponder is like, "Listen, I'm not doing it, so if you need to get a hold of me, you gotta try something else."
Yeah, and that's just a boundary, like, that's so
Yep,
great about Tim is, like, he just holds those boundaries, no
yep,
apologies. Some of us aren't as good at that, but this is the first step to setting those boundaries just even for your own self-discipline, and then let's extend it out to clients or to our audience or to our community. Let's model that for others.
yeah, that's so good. Layla, this has been super helpful. I
Mm,
think that there's, like, there's those of us in the room who are like, "Man, if I could just get my you know what together,
mhm,
if I could just build some of these simple processes, it's key." And this has been so, like, there's been so many positive metaphors that I think are helping reshape minds, in the room.
mhm,
It's also gotten really practical, which I think is super helpful. And then the creator journey of this all is super interesting to me as well. What are you most excited about as a YouTuber going forward? So getting out of the process for a little bit, what are you most
mhm,
excited about as like a creator in the world? When you think about your brand and the
mhm.
way that AI is now integrating into all of it, like, what are you, like, really hopeful about or excited about in the future?
I think what is exciting is that with AI, unfortunately, like many of us have more copycats, but that does mean that basic, boring how to information is no longer a requirement to be kind of our job. I think in my space, especially, there's a lot of just I don't wanna say outdated information, but when most people think process, they, like, groan and then they wanna fall asleep or run out the door. What's nice about the age of AI is that there's a little bit of a shakeup. I know I said this before where I kinda stumbled into content creation accidentally, but one of the beautiful things about all of the things happening now is that you can create pieces of content that shares a story or a data set or information that is not just a Wikipedia article, and you can get outsized reach. Like it's still possible in 2025, 2026, 2027 to just share an original idea and get in front of people. I said it already, but like my YouTube channel is around business freaking process. Like in what reality did you think that that would ever be able to grow into a format of channel of reach? I mean, when I first started YouTube, I remember budgeting, maybe I'll make 5 cents a month, legitimately. 5 cents a month is how much I budgeted to make from YouTube ads. And it has been wild to realize that because the internet is such a small world, there are people out there who are interested in every little nerdy niche that you might be into. But in many cases, there still isn't content publishing about it. MySpace is true for that. There is not a lot of content out there, especially with this perspective. I bet for many of us here, same thing. You might feel like the content universe is flooded with content in your niche, especially with YouTube stuff or sorry, AI generated stuff coming out, but it's actually not true. Quality is rarer than ever.
That's so good, and I think that's a I'd love to click into that because, there are books like, GTD, there are
Mhm.
things like, so many books on productivity and process and
Yeah.
system and whatever else. So, like, you could have told yourself that there was a flooded market here and that
Oh,
nothing
I
new needed to
did.
be said. Like, how did you keep going through that? Like, what was the shift in the mindset of, like, why your content needed to exist? Or, like, how did you, like, really anchor into that and keep going when that's a thought that I know that myself and other people in this room have had, like, "Listen, it's already being said, and it's maybe even
Mhm.
being said better than I can say it
Mhm.
because they've been doing it for 10 or 15 years."
Mhm.
Why you?
Yep.
Why did you decide that Layla needed to be creating this content, and how did you overcome any of those, like, imposter monsters that came up?
Oh, well, I've never had imposter I can't even get through this fake sentence. No, I mean, it doesn't go away, but what I've found that has been very helpful and why I now have such conviction and I'm trying to spread this message as deeply as possible is I didn't go into this trying to create a business around how to systemize small teams. I really didn't. I went into this whole space trying to learn how to systemize small teams. Like many of us here, you're probably on the journey, the transformation, as Gina would say, that your ideal customer is on, or was on, or will be on. You've experienced it. And my frustration was when I was trying to help my husband start his carpentry business, I could not get a straight answer of how do I keep track of what we need to do? Like simple stuff like that. And I looked and I read the books and I joined the programs and I watched the YouTube videos and my question wasn't answered. And to me, that was the source of confidence or at least proof that, hey, maybe something is missing because it wasn't enough for our little small contracting business. So, maybe there's a gap. And as I started working with clients, and many of you here, as you talk to your community members, you're going to hear stories that sound like your own. Hey, I tried this and I tried that. And I tried the stories of the people you speak to is the confidence. I don't have a lot of confidence internally where I'm like, I feel called to do this. No. I'm just the biggest nerd fascinated by this problem. I've found a lot of people along the way who are also struggling with this problem. And if no one else is going to solve it, well, we're going to figure it out. And so 7 years later, or 8 years we're getting on, uh, we've just kept perfecting the answer to this same question, and I think over time, the confidence and the imposter syndrome starts to fade as you have evidence that, "Wow, I'm solving a problem that I wished I could have solved," which is really where community is key.
It is key, and it's the contrast. It's the contrast of having a question that is
Yes.
not answered. It's the contrast of, like, having a rant, like, watching somebody else do it a certain way, you're like, "I know a better way than that." It's like
Mhm.
all of that contrast. I think oftentimes that contrast gets us into, like, a dark spot or a dark space. If we
Mhm.
just really can, like, flip it around really quickly, it's like, I have an unanswered question and I'm frustrated enough, it's like, there've gotta
Yeah,
be other people who have the same unanswered question, so, like, let me see if I can help. And so I'm gonna
exactly.
figure it out, and as I'm figuring it out, I'm going to invite other people to figure it out with me, and
Mhm.
even though I might just be a step ahead, or I might just even be creating the environment for people to be doing this or asking these questions, which again is the
Mhm.
power of community, that's
Mhm.
key. Or I'm frustrated that this thing doesn't exist, or I'm frustrated that this thing does exist. Like, those are all reasons for us, all that contrast is reasons for us to be doing something or creating something in this world.
So true, and if I can, like, even put a little follow-up on that, people here in the chat, I can see, like, we're exchanging contact info, we're getting in touch, you're all part of the mighty community at this point, the mighty family. When you start to build that community around you and you're building that movement, one of the cool side effects is that you start to have a common language with people. You start to have shared rants where when someone says the word visionary, they know you're going to break out in hives because it drives you crazy. And you find other people who are also enraged by the things that were otherwise considered normal or the only way. And what's cool is that then the ideas can develop further. Like when I do workshops on process stuff for memberships, we were inside of Mighty Networks the other day. We were giving a training, a guest workshop, whatever you call it, and everyone started working on the processes for their business. And afterwards, the community members started sharing what they built. They shared the process map that one person created with another, and they started to have this common language for how to talk about what their business does. In the same way, if you're here at this summit, you now have a common language about what it means to grow a business without burning out, without getting overwhelmed, without, being heartless. There's so many heart-centered people speaking at this conference. Use one another, become a movement together, and all of a sudden, again, it snowballs and it gets easier and easier to grow, which I love to see.
Amazing. All right, Layla, let's go back in the time machine 7 years
Okay.
ago, Layla, setting up for her first
Oh,
YouTube video.
mhm.
What do you want to tell that version of yourself 7 years ago? Because I think there are, hundreds of people who are gonna watch this, thousands of people who are gonna watch this replay and be
Mhm.
in a similar spot. What do you wanna tell that version of Layla 7 years ago?
Mhm. You know what? I don't think I'm smart enough to give this quote, but I will say the quote that someone said to me that led me to actually create it. And it was, I think this is a popular adage, but just find the problem interesting enough that you could spend 10 years trying to solve it perfectly and talk about that. Talk about what you don't understand, talk about what's confusing you, talk about what real people are stuck with, even if that real person is just yourself, regarding that moment of fascination. I think so many of us can get caught in creating in algorithms like we spoke, in avoiding burnout or reaching an arbitrary revenue goal. And I've never really held to those as North Stars. I think if we can just become obsessive over a problem and put either our research hat on or our creative hat on or our nerd hat on and just obsess over that one question, it'll inform your content, it'll inform your business, and it'll inform your community.
Oh, that's so good. Say that again really quickly. The problem that you could spend the next 10 years. Just say it again for those, because I think that's so key. That's a good place to end.
Decide what is the question that you could spend the next 10 years answering.
Mm, that's
I
good.
wish I could remember who said that.
Layla, thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find you? Website, YouTube, etc. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can search my name down here, Layla Pomper, at ProcessDriven on YouTube. That's where I hang out. Don't email me because now I'm going to take after Tim's book and just not respond to emails. But LinkedIn is the other place I hang out, or processdriven.co.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much for your generosity, both your time, your wisdom, being vulnerable, sharing your story. I have literally pages of notes after this conversation. I think there's lots of, also, you're like a metaphor queen. This was pretty amazing. You got some amazing metaphors. I saw it in the chat several times today as well. So thanks so much for sharing all of that. It's obvious that you are 7 years into asking these 10-year questions. And there's lots and lots of wisdom here. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.